Jeremy.
Hey, Tony.
What's going on, man?
It's living life, man.
Living it, loving it,
Absolutely.
enjoying every second.
Just about.
That's the goal, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's right. I tell you what, I love the blog that you started.
Thank you.
It's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So how did that all become?
Well,
Like all of a sudden, Jeremy, I remember back in the day, Trey Cafe. You remember Trey Cafe?
yeah, I loved the ladies at Trey Cafe. They were awesome.
Chantel. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But how different, how many years ago was that when you had that little satellite store back there? And
Well, about the time we closed, it was probably 10, 12 years ago.
10, 12
Yeah.
years ago. Jeez.
So a lot's happened in 10 or 12 years.
Absolutely.
And 10 or 12 years ago, I never pictured myself as a blogger.
Yeah.
You know, and still, I don't know that I necessarily consider myself one.
Sure.
But the blog kind of started out. It's kind of funny. I planted a garden last year, and and a friend of mine said, "You should." And I would post these postings on Facebook of my garden.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine said, "You should start a blog, about your garden, And people are like, "Oh, you're Farmer Jeremy." And I'm like, no, I'm not a farmer because farmers deal with manure. And I don't, I'm just a gardener, right? And it was literally these 2 garden boxes that I bought at the local hardware store, It wasn't anything crazy. But my friend was like, you should start a blog. And so I thought, oh, that'd be kind of funny to write a blog from the viewpoint of the garden. Like the garden was writing the blog.
Sure.
Right? Like today I met my master, my waterer, Jeremy, and I wrote it, and it was horrible. It wasn't funny. It didn't resonate with me at all. So I was like, it's not going to resonate with other people. Yeah. If I'm not connecting with it, then it's not going to connect with other people.
Sure.
So then one day I just, I don't even remember where I was. I just started writing about what was going on in my life, and then it just kind of trickled down from there. And then I was like, what am I going to call this blog? And it's interesting because it was probably 5-6 months prior my marriage had ended. Mm-hmm. I was on the heels of my 40th birthday, and I thought my life was kind of figured out. I had a plan. My girls were going to graduate high school in the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
My wife and I had a plan of what we wanted to do after they graduated. We were going to be pretty young.
How long were you guys married?
We were married about 7.5 years. We were together about 9 or 10 years. And then that all changed. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of just what the heck, man? What do I do now, right? And so I started writing about it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have to name this blog because when you go on there, they ask you for your own URL. And I didn't want to just call it Jeremy's blog.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about just where I was at, and what I can tell you one thing, when that happened in my life, that life change happened, my friends were awesome, right? Mm-hmm. Just awesome. My family, awesome. But one thing that people said to me a lot was, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
And sorry to me felt like pity.
Yeah. Right.
And I didn't want pity.
Sure.
Right?
Sure, yeah.
And then the other thing that I thought about was there were things, looking at my first 40 years, there were things in my life that I didn't do. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying because of my wife, but just throughout my life, looking back, I was like, there's things that I didn't do, whether I was scared or thought it wouldn't be accepted or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of sorry that I didn't do that. So the blog was Don't Be Sorry, and that's what I ended up naming it. Because that was kind of the mantra that I wanted for my life going forward. Yeah. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
Yeah. It's like that Louis C.K., that comedian.
Yeah.
And he's talking about divorce, and he's split up, and everybody's saying, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that." And he's like, "What do you mean you're sorry? It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Don't be sorry." That's it really is I'm sure something traumatic like that always makes you look at. Takes a couple steps backwards, but then all of a sudden it makes you look at things just a little bit more clear with some different perspective and stuff.
Totally, man. I mean, you just you go from living your life with someone to one, not having to think about them when you're making decisions, which is different, you know. And I had friends tell me like, oh, you seem happier, and I'm like, it's not happier, it's just different, you know. It's just it's a different angle. Life is a different angle for me now. And there were some bad days. Like there were days that I didn't want to get out of bed, you know. And I went through all the steps that you go through. But, you know, looking back on it, I mean, it was my journey, you know, like, and so I'm grateful for it. I mean, there's part of me that wishes I never went through it because it was horrible. But man, there's so many positives that have come from it, and the blog being one of them.
Absolutely. And it amazes me about like just the different levels of pain that people, like maybe somebody lost their job, maybe somebody's kid isn't doing so well, maybe, you know, and then it's just that effect that rattles that perfect life realm that they think that they have, like the house, the car, you know, the kids, and then all of a sudden something comes up and rattles it. And I there's this one guy, Dr. Gabor Mate. I'm a huge fan of that guy, but he talks about like or even that book. I remember we talked a little bit, and you read
the Four Agreements.
The Four Agreements, yeah. And I think even that one touches on like the angel of death or something like that, and where you have these people who come up with like cancer or something like that, and you know, all of a sudden they're just like, well, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. It really rattles your whole environment and makes you think and take a look at things a little bit differently. I know back 10, 12 years ago myself, you know, I'm nowhere near the person I used to be back then, you know. And it's kind of fun. I just, you know, there's so many different roads that people can go.
Well, it's crazy now when you think about it, because you're like, 20 years ago, people were telling me not to pay attention to this and pay attention to that, and I didn't listen to those guys, but now I'm kind of wishing I did. You know, I mean, but you got to experience it, you know. But, you know, sometimes it takes that moment to shake you up, too. And, you know, with the blog, I've just kind of put it all out there, like as honest as I can be about, you know, what I'm going through, what I've gone through, the changes in my life, you know, and it's great. I mean, my life is great. I have no complaints, but
that's pretty ballsy, you know. Today, seriously. I mean, you look at it's pretty much like your journal for everybody to see. You know, it's I know some people think it's therapeutic to write down your thoughts.
Well, it definitely is, and it started, you know, I've never had a journal. And 3 days after my wife told me that she didn't want to be married anymore, I started one. And
it helps.
I look back at some of those pages and I'm like, oh, I was in a shitty place, you know? But now I could, but you know, it helps, you know, and I'd rather write it down. Some of those thoughts were pretty mean, and I'd rather write it down than to express those to the person that, you know, that I felt that way about at the time. Because I don't wish to project that anger.
Any regrets so far, like of getting it out there on social media type deal, or you?
No, I mean, cool? You know, people are pretty responsive. It's funny though, they're responsive normally in like private message versus posting replies on the actual post. So obviously there's a connection, but they're still, for lack of a better word, maybe scared to post that stuff, you know, in public. And that's kind of my thing, is like, man, humans are pretty much a lot alike, and we're going through a lot of the same shit, but we're really closed off. And we could really benefit from opening up, because then we wouldn't feel so alone in our shit. I mean, we do it with the positives, right? I mean, the positives are out there. You look on Facebook, look on the news, everybody's celebrating. I mean, even the NCAA, we're all hugging in love. I love you, brother. You know. You know, but the crap that we're going through, we tend to
hold on to it,
compartmentalize it, and hold on to it, and make it our own. But you know, there's people going through what I went through every day.
That's. I mean, that's even though you put that stuff out there, you get private messages. And it's kind of I mean, what's that say? What's that say about, I mean, it's pretty lonely if you think about it, or is it fear or, I mean.
Yeah. Like fear of being judged, I think. Like in today's society, and not that I would necessarily want to blame society, but like, you go to school and then you go to college and then you have a family and you stay married and it doesn't happen like that anymore.
Yeah.
Not always. I mean,
you got your handful.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'm not afraid to say that college isn't for some kids.
Sure.
Maybe they're artistically driven and they should be doing something else.
Absolutely.
But we try to fit them into this mold.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they turn 40 and they think their life was supposed to be one way.
Yeah.
When really it probably should have went in a different direction. But I mean, it bums me out a little bit to know that people are hurting, suffering, and can't necessarily express themselves.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe this is my little piece of that ability for them.
Yeah.
Even if it's just reading, it's like, oh yeah, Jeremy went through this.
Sure.
He's doing all right.
Well, good for you, man. That takes a lot. That takes a lot. Yeah.
And it's just truth. I mean, and my girls, I have 2 daughters. They read it.
How old are your daughters now?
They're 15 and 17.
Ooh, you're right in the heat of the battle. Man, I would say that was my toughest time when I was 15, 16. Yeah. By far the toughest time. I mean, all the pressures. What are you going to do? What are you going to be?
Well, and that's the thing, like I got one who just got accepted to U of O next year and on scholarship. So I'm like, phew. But, and then the 15-year-old, she's a freshman. We've had some really honest conversation. I mean, honestly, there's some really honest conversation that goes on in my house.
Sure.
And I want them to go after whatever it is they want to go after. And of course, I didn't graduate college, so I'd like to see them do that.
Right.
But if they came to me and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go play guitar in a band," I'd be like, "Do it,
do it." Yeah.
Yeah. Do it. Don't have babies.
Yeah.
Do it.
It seems. Perspective has got to be huge. I mean, you think about everybody in this world, and you think about the environment in which they were brought up in, and just the random different perspectives that happen. Like my wife and I, we've married 20-something years.
I love your wife, by the way.
Oh, she's amazing. She's amazing. I got lucky. Won the lottery on that one. But she, both of us dropped out of high school. We just... junior year, I was my senior year. We were, we messed around. She got pregnant. Yeah. We're like, what are we gonna do? The school thing wasn't working for us. I even remember reaching out to the school saying, what do I need to do? And they pretty much just said, you're screwed. What are you gonna do? And that thing. So, get out and get a job and do my work. But more importantly than that, I think it was the way that my wife and I were brought up. I think we had a huge family support around us.
It's a big deal.
Big deal. I mean, I think there was something about being a young child and having an adult, a calm, positive, nurturing, empathetic adult around there that helps you to develop and it helps you like take in the tough stuff and helps you digest it and get rid of that tough stuff and move forward into whatever it is you want to do. And bless my wife, she's had her own business for 10, 15 years, real estate appraiser, and I've been doing my own thing, and and we've been having a good time at it. And so we've got one kid, our first child, graduated from Oregon State, and she's doing well, and our son's 19, is one of those artistic craft, just brilliant, philosophical, musically, blows glass, just really artsy, and just has the huge heart, and just two different dynamics, but happiness.
Yeah,
there's a lot to do. There's a lot there of being happy, instead of like going through the daily grind and like what you said, all of a sudden you reach 40 and you're like, this is it, this is what's next. What's next. So that's a little scary too. I mean, when you're trying to bring up the kids, Like my son, the question, hot tub talk, you know?
Yeah.
How do you raise the perfect child?
You know, it's funny, man. I have friends who are younger than me, and they have younger kids. And at 40, I'm 41 now, but at 40, I could tell you that I couldn't start that process over. Like kids, they got too much energy, and you know, being a parent is incredible. But you know, I had a friend actually last summer ask me like, "What do I do? What do I do?" I'm like, "You do your best, and you hope you don't fuck your kids up too much."
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's no. I mean, you got a kid that graduated college, right? Mm-hmm. And then you got a kid who's artistic. Mm-hmm. The world needs both of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and we try to we collectively, society tries to say, go to school, go to college, go get a job, start a family. But we need those artistic people too. Yeah. You know, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, and not everybody is driven by money. And I've been on both sides of that personally. So, you know, maybe you're not going to make $250,000 a year being an artist. Yeah. But are you happy?
Exactly. That's got to be priceless.
Yeah.
Especially these days. It seems like we live in a pretty stressed out world.
Dude. I have this conversation with like so many of my guy friends where we become providers, and we feel like as long as we're providing, going to work, working 12 hours a day, bringing home money, that we're doing our jobs as a spouse or as a father, you know.
And on the flip side, as long as we're consuming.
Yeah, right?
We've got to be consuming.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. But our kids don't see us, you know, or our wife doesn't get to spend quality time with us. And like I said, I've been on both sides of that, you know, and I can tell you that not stressing myself out is way better.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
Not that, and I'll be honest, not that my life was bad before. Like I loved what I had, but now kind of coming from both perspectives, this is a much more pleasant place to be.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
I think, you know, changing my views, you know, I used to head coach, you know, at the high school, and being the head guy, you know, in charge of all these kids, and you've got these parents who spend tons of money on their kids, giving them the best training, the best skills, and all of a sudden the amount of pressure. And my big thing is I just took on stuff and took it personally. And that was tough. Yeah. You know, that was tough for me to take, you know, just like, why are they attacking me? What am I doing? I'm trying to do my best, you know, and it just become overwhelming. And finally I was like, you know, I'm through with this. I don't deserve that. As to where now, if I'm in my state of mind that I am now, I think I would be able to handle that a little bit differently, because I can see things, you know, it's not me, you know, maybe there's a lot of pressure there. Who knows what kind of pressure that family is under. And when you look at a group of kids, you know, when they step onto the field, they're in one environment, but once they leave that field, who knows what they're going home to? Who knows what kind of pressure that they're dealing
with? And that's
with.
what, I mean, that's incredible too. I mean, and that's, I coached Little League in my old neighborhood, and I knew that 90 minutes or 2 hours that those kids were with me playing baseball might be the only normal 90 minutes or 2 hours of their life.
So true.
You know?
Yeah.
And I had a good childhood. I mean, I wasn't anything extreme in my childhood. You know, my parents struggled, 4 kids and stuff, but it was good, you know? And some of these kids, especially in my old neighborhood, I know that they struggle. Yeah. You know, maybe their parents are on drugs, or, you know, they're one parent homes or whatever.
Sure.
And this is their moment. You know, and there's something that you talked about when we talked before, like you talked about memorable moments.
Yes.
And that really like resonated with me.
Love memorable moments.
Yeah. So, it's okay sometimes just to stand outside and look at the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's that perspective. I had it just the other night. I mean, it was raining really hard, and it was late. It was like 11:30 at night. And I just went to bed. I just laid down, and my wife was coming to bed, and my son he's like, hey, do you want to go in the hot tub? I heard him talking to my wife,
Yeah.
and she's like, no, it's raining outside. I think I'm going to go to bed. And he's like, well, I think I'm going to go out in the hot tub for a little bit. And I was laying in bed, just got, my onesies on,
with the plastic
foots, just ready to,
Yeah.
and all snugged in. And I was like, you know what? I was like, it's raining outside. Nice cool breeze. That water's going to feel nice and cold hitting you. And then that water in the hot tub's going to be really hot. And I'm going to have my son with me out there.
Yeah.
That's a memorable moment.
Yeah, man.
I'm getting my swim trunks on, and it's just thinking about it that way, and got my swim trunks on, went out there, hung out with my son in the rain, in the hot tub, had a great conversation, and it was a memorable moment,
Well, and especially at that age, man, because you might be weeks before you have the opportunity again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they do grow up really, really fast.
Yeah.
Fast, yeah, for sure. But I try to do that with all the kids that I work with. It's like we're constantly preparing for the future. I mean, we're constantly looking to what am I going to do in the future, and then that's really dangerous because I believe it tells people that the present moment isn't good enough.
Right.
And it's like when I work with these kids and I see these kids doing it on their own. They'll go and they'll huddle up and they'll have memorable moments. They'll take the environment, take the situation where we're at, and they'll put themselves in the place in the moment.
Yeah.
And, it really slows things down for them. I think I heard, I think it was Alan Watts, really old 1970s philosopher guy, but he's like,
Wait, you can't. Did you say 1970s?
1970s.
Well, you can't say really old in 1970s.
He's
man,
my old. He's my age.
I was born in the 70s.
No, he was probably 40 in 1970s.
Yeah.
So
okay. So he's like 1930s philosopher Alan Watts.
Yeah. But he was like a brilliant guy. Kind of hard to listen to sometimes, but if you can pick up and really slow yourself down.
That was before HD. So.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you can't prepare for the future if you're unable to live in the present moment.
Yeah.
I find that very, for myself anyway, I find that very true. And
it's true, man. I saw one of those things. I'm kind of a Pinterest junkie lately, and it's pretty much like positive quotes and food recipes.
Yeah.
So I'm always hungry, but I have a good attitude. So this thing, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it more or less said that the most generous thing you can do today is pay attention.
Yeah, I love it.
And so to me, that's like, that's what I try to do, and there's times where I don't know anything about the conversation, but with kids, man, kids are beautiful, and they're untarnished until we tarnish them, and we put all these pressures on them that you're talking about, and my daughter's involved in club volleyball, and sometimes, man, the parents come down kind of hard, and I'm just like, wow, they played a game today, and they didn't win.
Yeah. Yep.
So they know what they need to work on, but it's,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. This doesn't make them.
Yeah. It's a weird dynamic. You do have those parents that are like, nothing's going to come for free.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, you have to take it.
Yeah.
If you want, you got to go and you got to get it. And you got to be aggressive. Take it, and go at it. And then you've got, the parents that are like, take care of yourself first.
Right.
Be good to yourself. And, it's kind of a clash. And I can't imagine what these kids are going through, especially if you go on YouTube. Just like my son sent me that TED Talk pork chop video last night. And I forwarded it to you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
And he sends me the most amazing stuff, and it's just, I wonder, I mean, what would that be like to be a teenager and to get so much information at your fingertips, and yet you're still going to like the school, which still has your basic math, history, and that whole deal. And I know we talked a little bit about education and it seems, for me anyway, just when I've been involved, it just seems like it's more about controlling behaviors.
Yeah, and passing the tests.
And passing the
right,
tests.
you got to pass the tests.
Right, instead of developing good people, good kids, good, and I can't imagine.
And it's not the teachers that are the teachers are being dictated to, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, these kids have, I don't know what they call it, Oaks. Do they still do the Oaks testing? I think it's called. But I was involved in that for a long time until it wasn't cool for me to go to school. My daughter told me, and so I don't know if it's still the Oaks testing they do, but it's pretty much like they're teaching to pass the test.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And there's awesome teachers out there. That's like a thankless job.
For sure. There's so many good teachers out there. So many good teachers.
And there's a lot of young teachers with like really great ideas too, but I think they're kind of constricted by state and federal guidelines. But we talked about it, like education, like what do you teach, like showing a TED talk in class. That's real life, man. Or the 4 agreements, teaching the 4 agreements. Not making assumptions, do your best, stuff like that at a young age, like what those kids would blossom into if they were taught those fundamental values. Not that math and history and English, that's all important. I'm not saying that that's not part of the curriculum, but there's like life things that could be taught.
Sure, yeah. And I take that very seriously as far as like my coaching style. I there's this lady in town, Canby, her name's Holly, and she does personal training, kickboxing, cardio.
So what you're saying is I've never met her.
No, I don't know, maybe. But I, instead of going out into the soccer field, I would have her once a week work with these girls. And we went up to the Canby High School upper gym, old wrestling room where they had all the mats. I guess it's now
again a place I've never been.
It's the dance room. It's pretty cool. But they like had she like went up and she was like talking to them about like being strong, being confident, really balancing their energy, and I was just thinking, wow, what a great PE class that would be. If these kids could actually go in there and have that perspective about being, and the kids loved it too. I mean, they were all about it. They were
empowers them, man, and it
really does.
It's good to be be told that it's okay to be quirky, or awkward, especially at that age. I mean, because that's going to come naturally, but it empowers them, I think, a little bit.
Confidence.
But what they get is they get one day of that, and the other 184 days of school, they're taught.
Yeah, another great one is we'd get all the girls together and I'd tell them to start laughing as loud as they can. And pretty soon all of them are just crying, hysterically laughing. Awkward. Memorable.
Definitely memorable.
And they had a good time at it. So it was good.
It's okay to be silly.
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, I try to do that. I had a friend ask me recently if I always acted like a kid. And I'm thinking in my mind, I hope so.
Exactly.
I mean, because it's beauty. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, kids, like I said, they're untarnished until we tarnish them.
Right.
When we put all of our heavy stuff on them.
Yeah.
And,
forever young, right?
That's right.
I refuse to grow up.
That's right. Exactly. So, I go for that. I mean, I got to deal with shit. There's stuff thrown at me every day. But how I deal with it's my own choice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the decision that I've made,
It is easier when you look at it. It's not a life-ending situation.
No.
Even as bad as it may be, you're still going to be okay. You'll still make it through.
Absolutely.
That's good. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
It was fun, man.
All right.